Hi guys, this is the third, I think, part. And this is the part where I kind of talk about like how our first part of our relationship went and how it started to escalate to where it was. And so at first he was super cute and he was like a really good skateboarder, and me and him liked a lot of the same like music and TV shows, and he like was kind of a partier like I was, and so he lived an hour away in this mountain town, and he decided to move in with his grandparents so he could be closer to me. And where his grandparents lived, there was these kids that were about his age, and he was 2 years older than me. And they had kind of like hung out together whenever he was at his grandparents' house. And so he introduced me to them, and that was kind of like our new party spot because one of his friends was 21, and so he could buy us alcohol, and that was super cool. And I mean, at the time, I guess, but he had um, uh, dropped out of high school when he was in his junior year, so he was supposed to move to the big city and get a job. And so he hung out a lot with me in between school, and I got a job almost right away, moving to Rio Rancho because I loved working. And so we had money, and he had a car, and then I got a car pretty soon after that. And at first, he was just very attentive and wanted to spend so much time with me, and it was super flattering, especially because I had never had a serious boyfriend before. So it was nice to always have somebody. And all of my friends liked him a lot, and it started like a lot of my friends got introduced to him um, at the same time as kind of hanging out with me. Like, we had been together first, and so a lot of people like associated us together because of that. And he one thing I found out later too was that he didn't get invited over to his friend's house there either very much because some reason they didn't want him coming around as much. But when I started dating him, his friends liked me enough that they wanted me around and like talking, and like I was always with the boys, and all of everybody else's girlfriend wouldn't hang out with them, and they would be super jealous about that, like, why does she get to come with us? And they're like, because she's cool, kind of thing. And so I didn't know that until later, like that they didn't go out of their way to invite him places. And so yeah, he started kind of acting kind of possessive and like jealous and stuff, but it just kind of looked like, oh, you're so cute, you love me that much, what's so wrong with somebody loving me that much? And he would say things sometimes like I was like flirting with his friends, and I wasn't. I probably might have been. I don't think I was, but it was just how I kind of talked to guys from that point on, was kind of, laughing and I don't know what is flirting, joking with them and stuff. And then but he'd get like super angry about it sometimes and kind of throw these fits, or like we wouldn't do what he wanted, and he would just like pout about it and stuff. And it was that really embarrassing at first, like, and I would just try to um keep him kind of happy, so like he wasn't ruining whatever was going on. And I come to find out later, and that's why they didn't. Neither group of his friends really wanted him around, was because he did that a lot. Like, it was his way, or he threw a fit, and he was just super negative and just crying all the time and never like really taking anyways. So his fits and his anger and all that and his kind of accusing me of things started escalating. And at first I was just kind of like, it was off-putting, and we'd get in these arguments where I'm like, you can't, no, that's not right. You shouldn't be accusing me of this stuff. I would never do that to you. And he would be like, well, whatever, you did this and you did that, and you know, and then he would realize he was like getting me like super mad, and he'd start to get apologetic and be like, I just love you so much. I can't think of anybody else having you, and that's why I do this. And I'm like, oh, okay, well, okay, maybe it's just him being possessive. And then I was kind of flattered again, like, oh, he loves me that much kind of thing. And then it started getting so bad, like, I would be talking to his friends, or I'd be talking to my friends, or whatever, and he would get mad and just, like, grab me by the arm and, like, pull me into his truck and, like, slam the door and then start screaming at me. And he'd throw these fits and get super mad and, like, drive his car super erratically, like, all over the road. And I'd be like, slow down, oh my gosh, you're gonna kill us. And he'd be, like, crying and not really paying attention to what he's doing. And I'm like, oh my gosh, okay, whatever, like, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it, just calm down, just pull off the road, let me drive. Like, I was super scared. And then he's after a while, he gets so worked up and mad, he started like hurting himself, like he'd like punch himself in the face or like hit his head against the steering wheel. And it was like really upsetting to see. I'd be like, oh my god, what are you doing? And he'd be like, just so, you could just see his anger just like building up, and I I started getting to where I would say anything to just get him to stop hurting himself. And one time I had asked him, even, like, why do you hurt yourself like that? Like, it doesn't make any sense. Like, I know you're upset, but you shouldn't hurt yourself. That's bad. And he said, well, if I didn't hurt myself, I get so angry, I feel like I want to hit you. And so I sacrifice myself so I don't have to. And it was really terrifying. Even at the time, I'm like, you want to hit me kind of thing? And so I started to kind of withdraw myself from the relationship, like not call him as much, hang out with my friends sometimes by myself, just like kind of not as like into it as I was before. And every time I did that, he'd get like really moody and whiny and call me all the time because again, his friends didn't really hang out with him without me around, so it wasn't like when I got a life, he got a life. And he would like sometimes say things like, oh, if you ever broke up with me, I'd kill myself and stuff, because I think he realized I was kind of like iffy about whether or not we should stay together. So, and whenever he'd say that, I'd be like, oh my gosh, don't say that, I would never break up with you, and we were planning on getting married and our kids. And I got along with his family like so well. His family was so cool. I still love his mom and dad and his sister. And but another thing was, nothing was ever his fault. So when he got there, he was supposed to get a job, but he would sometimes, like, he'd get these jobs and then he'd get fired, or he wouldn't go out looking like he said he was going to, and he was like blaming me for it. Like, well, you want me to spend so much time with you, and I'm like, what? No, I told you to go get a job. Like, you could have a job, be looking for a job when I'm at mine or at school, like, or if you said you were working, that was fine. And then, like, I'm like, well, why don't you get a part-time job when I'm at school if you're so worried about spending time with me? And then he was like, well, now I can't find a job because you put this time parameter on me. And I'm like, what? I didn't know. I was saying that because you were saying you wanted to spend time with me. And, like, he did all that because he wanted to be this famous skateboarder. And he said that the reason he wasn't was because I was distracting him and stuff. And everything was just my fault. And he'd just like rant over these things, anything negative, like how the world sucked and how politics were just this evil thing, and how nothing was good and all this stuff, and he wouldn't know what he was talking about, and he wouldn't like try to fix it or anything. He'd just like rant about it, and it was kind of this like crazy stupid kind of ranting. So I was starting to get kind of fed up about it, and then the next time I talk, I'm gonna kind of talk about one really vivid memory I have about being together with him, and just about pretty much the thing that I remember the most about it. So I will talk to you later on Speaking with the Fog, and we will talk about this more, because there is more to this story than what's going on right now. And you would think, come on, break up with the guy, he's obviously awful, but there's more. So stay tuned.